My name is Petra Gant. My name is Petra Gantnerova, and I'm pleased to serve as a moderator for today's online seminar on understanding the esports opportunities and challenges for grassroots sports that we are glad to be co-organizing with the European Esports Federations. And with this, I would also like to welcome our two speakers. Just to go through some basic housekeeping rules so we can enjoy this seminar to its full potential. Please mute your microphones when not speaking. And as mentioned, this session is recorded. And at the end of both presentations, we will have a Q&A session where you can ask questions or make some discussion. And please feel free to raise your hand or use the chat at any time. As mentioned, my name is Petra Gantnerova, and I'm here as part of the ENGSO EU Advisory Committee. And I'm glad to welcome Boban and Karol for today's seminar. I will introduce them more when they have their presentations. Just to begin, why we are here, why esports and why ENGSO and esports. So the esport, as most of us know, that has evolved in global phenomenon and is influencing how people are engaging and connecting and competing in sports. So that's why ENGSO EU Advisory and put this into the work plan, also based on some feedback from the ENGSO member survey, and the topic was identified as a topic that is gaining momentum and is worthy to further explore. And it is also part of the EU work plan for sport 2024-2027, where we can see it in innovation and digitalization in promoting participation and inclusion. So that's why. And today's session is designed as an introduction, setting the stage for deeper discussion to come. And without any further ado, I would like to welcome and introduce Karol Cagan, who will give us a crash course on European esports. He will provide us a concise overview of the European ecosystem in esports, how it is structured, what roles federation play, and where it intersects with traditional sport development. And just a short introduction on Karol, so you know that he's well funded on this topic. Karol serves as acting president of the European Esports Federation and is the only board member to have served continuously since founding in 2020. He's also the founding president of the Slovak Esport Association and has led the development of national and grassroots esports in Slovakia since 2014. On top of this, he also brought major sports brands like Kia and Coca-Cola and Orange into esports, and he's also active in youth education, volunteering as a lecturer on growth and personal development. Thank you, Karol, for joining us, and I'll let the screen to be yours.
Thanks for having us. It's a great pleasure being here. You should see my screen in a sec, so yeah, seems perfect. So once again, hello, thanks for having us. My name is Karol. I'm from European Esports Federation, and I didn't know how to pace this ideally, so maybe for some members I'll go like really shallow, and for some I might be too deep in the topic. So if you have any questions, please either raise your hand and I can take them immediately, or write them in the chat. That would be even better, and we discuss them at the end of our session. So to begin with esports, let's start with the game titles. What are the most popular game titles? Esports works same as maybe athletics in a sense of game titles. So when somebody's playing, for example, League of Legends, he doesn't know or is not great at playing Counter-Strike or playing Fortnite or another game title. Same as if somebody is good at jumping, he's not good at sprint for 100 meters. So esports is a same kind of category that we encompass all digital competitions, yet players or athletes specialize in their respective game titles. As for the game titles, globally, League of Legends is the most popular game title. In Europe is also one of the most or second most popular. It depends on which countries you're looking at. It has its own European championships and commercial structures. Second title is Counter-Strike, currently Counter-Strike 2, which is most popular in Northern Central Europe and Eastern Europe, where is the sort of global home of Counter-Strike, and it's the most dominant region in the world. It has the wildest or the most vivid commercial infrastructure, since its publisher has a much more freer hand. So there is a lot of commercial competitions and a lot of stuff going on in Counter-Strike because it's very easy to organize and get license. Valorant is something that we call brand safety Counter-Strike, or Counter-Strike without violence, that features violence only in terms of magic, which is why it's more likely to be considered for Olympic style competitions. Whereas on the other hand, Counter-Strike is still considered a violent game since it's a shooter game. Then we have Dota 2, which is very similar to League of Legends, but from a different game publisher. Dota 2 is especially popular in Asia, but also in Europe it ranks quite a popularity. And then we have titles that are less popular than these magnificent four, like Fortnite, Apex Legends, or Rocket League. Of course, if you have any questions about game titles, please feel free to ask. The popularity of game titles varies from country per country, so every region, every country has a specific taste, and some titles are more popular than the other ones. Now, what sets esports apart from traditional sports? The main thing is publishers. So since nobody owns the football pitch in esports, Counter-Strike is owned by Valve Corporation, or League of Legends is owned by Riot Games. What specificity does it set into the industry is that in order to organize competitions and be compliant, you need licensing and allowances from the publishers. We can roughly divide those publishers into two groups, light-handed publishers and heavy-handed publishers. Light-handed publishers basically grant you license to do whatever you want, and they're not that restrictive except for having some far-end sponsors like guns or cryptocurrencies or something like that. That's, for example, Valve Corporation that publishes Counter-Strike or Dota 2. They are light-handed publisher. That's why you can see a lot of competitions in these games in and around the world. Then, on the other hand, you have publishers like Riot Games that organizes their own competitions, has their own teams and own leagues, and is heavy-handed with the licenses. For example, Riot Games only picks one company to run commercial tournament or tier 1 tournament in every single country. And once that company gets a license, there cannot be any other tier 1 competition in the country. But Riot is becoming more and more open in the future, and if you can offer them value, especially in grassroots and university or student projects, they are highly open to licensing, even for international events, which they were more restrictive in the past. And EA Sports also one of the more heavy-handed publishers that publishes games like EAFC, which is electronic football, or NHL, which is electronic hockey. Now, another important stakeholder that is maybe not as visible in traditional sports as it is in esports are the commercial organizers. These are the logos you can see in the lower half of my screen. These are commercial companies that has been organizing tournaments for quite some time. What is specific about esports is that in some countries, the commercial organizers or commercial ecosystem is much more mature than the federation ecosystem. So there are differences, but for example, in Korea, the biggest organizer by far is the local esport association, KESPA. What can be the role of an esports federation? So where do we fit in this broader stakeholder map? First of all, the tournament roles. Most federations focus on nation-based tournaments, which means flag playing against flag. This segment is neglected by both publishers and commercial organizers, so this is something that the federations are striving for and where the federations are active. What all the federations are doing, regardless of the fact if they are actually organizing top-tier commercial tournaments or no, are the grassroots tournaments, being either university tournaments or school tournaments, which, as I said, are very popular because they lack those strict licensing requirements, so almost anybody can host them, and the publishers are very open to allowing these tournaments to be licensed out. And of course, a lot of member federations and a lot of national federations also organize countrywide tournaments and leagues for both commercial teams and nation states. As I said, this depends greatly on the particular level of development of the current member federation. And the other important role is the development role. Since the esports is driven on to an extent by commercial entities, though those entities typically neglect areas like coaches, their training and certification, which is something that a lot of our members are right now active. They have their own coaching programs, cooperate with universities to license those out. Of course, referees, which is very important to have a referee program, referee certification program, is also something that is up to federations to create those roles and have those expertise. And something even more important, which I'm not going to go into details and talk about particular game titles and publishers, but it's about protecting players, because there has been a history of a lot of predatory practice on terms of either teams or tournament organizers in signing very heavy-handed contracts with young players that leaves them sort of trapped for the rest of their careers. And something that is inherently the role of any association or federation is the rules and regulations. So how does it all look like? Who are the federations and what do they actually do? We can divide them on multiple levels. First, let's speak about the international federations. The International Esports Federation is the oldest and the biggest. It's the signature of WADA. It was founded in 2008 and currently has 151 members. It's very active. It's been hosting annual championships for every year since 2008. Now, the Global Esports Federation was founded in 2019, currently hosts 147 members, but for last year, they didn't hold an esports championship, and they are sort of losing their activities a little bit. Then on the other hand, we have continental bodies. The ones that are most developed are, of course, the European Esports Federation and the Asian Esports Federation. Asian Esports Federation being the federation that actually does esports at Asian Olympic Games and works actively with Olympic Council of Asia, as European Esports Federation being a continental federation of both the ISF and GEF, respectively, as sort of a united body for esports in Europe, founded in 2020 in Brussels and currently featuring 44 active members. Of course, we have our national federations that are members, and as said, there are no conflicts between our members and, for example, the Global Esports Federation members or ISF members. So those are the same federations that are members in these bodies. If, of course, my colleague Boban from the International Esports Federation will have more to say about the structure. Now, the interesting part, if you are a sports federation or Olympic committee or somebody active in traditional sports, how to incorporate esports into your daily business or into your daily activities. First, the rule of thumb is simulation sports. What is highly relevant is that most of people is likely 80 to 90% depends on the simulation sport. The players are actually fans and viewers of the sport itself. So most of FIFA players, or now it's called EAFC, which is electronic football, are players or fans of real world football. The same can be said for NHL or NBA 2K. So if you organize tournaments in traditional sports, the best way to gamify those audiences and to attract more fans or more athletes is to actually also do simulation sport tournaments in the respective esports title that simulates your traditional sports. And of course, esports can serve as a good way to gamify the industry, to maybe attract new fans and to create new hosts of activities. A big phenomenon, for example, is after a major football match, there are hundreds of thousands of rematches going online in games like EAFC or other football matches. So this is also a very nice phenomenon that can be developed. A lot of national sport federations are trying to develop their esport leagues and esport titles, which many of us as national federations or as European Federation are assisting those sport federations in creating and cultivating those esport vibes and those esport projects, since we know how to reach and market to those people. And where, of course, this is where esports can help the traditional players, and where traditional players can help us in esports is the physical aspect of esports. As we know, esports might not seem like it, but physically demanding activity. Players can have up to 180 beats per minute and commit up to 400 actions per minute, which requires a certain physical fitness to maintain the performance. But since esports is young, organic, and growing by grassroots, what we lack is significant structure for nutrition, training, and psychological and physical training for athletes. And that's something where esports and traditional sports can combine to create a great ecosystem with huge added value for the players, because it's in our interest as esports federations as well that our players are healthy, they have their physical routine, which enables them to stay at peak performance for much longer and, of course, make them more sustainable living. Now, how does it look like in terms of recognition? So you can see here is the list of countries that is currently recognized by their Olympic committees in Europe. This is from our membership survey for 2024. So maybe there might be some new countries adding up this year. And this is how the situation looks like in the recognition of esports by the national sport authorities, or the national sport authority that recognizes esports as a sport. What can I say is that Europe is second behind Asia in the trend of recognition of national members. Asia is at the top of the game mainly because of the Asian Esports Federation and its activities. Here, about 2/3 of all countries have their esports federation recognized by the Olympic Committee or National Sports Authority. But Boban will be able to share much about that later, since Asia is under the International Esports Federation. Now, that's pretty much for me from the quick crash course of what esports is. If you're a little bit into esports and I was too shallow, my apologies. It's very hard to tune these topics to match everybody's preferences and level of advancement. If you have any questions, please follow up in the comments, and now or reach out to me privately. I'm happy to jump on a meeting with whomever is interested in developing esports. And now the floor is off to Boban.
Thank you, Karol. Thank you. And if you can stop sharing your screen, so then we can move to Boban's presentation. Thanks. And I would like to welcome Boban, who will offer us a global perspective, as Karol was already mentioning. Esports, as also our sports federations, are organized within ecosystem where the European Esports Federation is organized under the International Esports Federations. And we are glad to have Boban here, who is Secretary General of the European International Esports Federation. And he will share with us how the International Esports Federation supports development, education, and how the governance it is in esports worldwide. And just a short introduction for Boban. Boban is I need to read this, Boban. Sorry, because your CV is too long for me. So Boban is a professional with over 20 years of experience in IT, business management, and esports. He formerly served as president of Macedonian Esports Federation, where he organized over 15 national finals and participated in more than 10 world championships. Now, as the Secretary General of International Esports Federation, he leads strategic global initiatives, advancing innovation, sustainability, and collaboration across the esport ecosystem. So, Boban, thank you very much again for joining us, and please go ahead.
Thank you for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Some of you already know me. We've probably met on some conferences around Europe and around the world. For those of you that don't know, you heard the explanation. So I've been in esports for 20 years, actually, this year, and especially focusing on managing the national teams, integrity, national team selection, and fair play, and of course, diversity and inclusivity in esports. Because when you think of the world, there are so many countries and so many audiences in the ecosystem that are being underappreciated, and they don't have the same access to esports. And we as ISF have been working hard in the past years to make sure that we have even regions like Africa and the others to be able to take part in our competitions, which I will show a little later in our scheme from the world, so you can understand better. Just a second. There we go. So basically, we always start with the definition of esports, something that is not still globally accepted or unified. The definition that we're using is actually when you play video games competitively, because esports has all the segments that any sports has. It has teams, it has competition, it has structure, it has rules, it has referees, it has a playing field, it has all the requirements to be a sport. I will talk about this a little later, but just to understand better, if there are no rules in any sport, it's nothing. And I usually use boxing here as an example, because if you only remove three things from boxing, which is the gloves, the ring, and the referee, it's actually a street fight. So putting rules into a competition, into something, makes it a sport. So this is what happened to esports. When 20, 30 years ago, it was casual gaming and it was only entertainment, it actually grew itself from the community itself, and it became a sport. And you will see later in the presentation in how many countries it is treated as such, and what it actually means. Karol previously mentioned a little about ISF, who we are and what we do. So we are focusing esports. What you're seeing here is a picture from our 2023 World Championship, which was in Iași in Romania. So you can see here we had quite a lot of nations, quite a lot of countries and athletes from all over the world. So we had 106 different countries being present in Romania for the World Championship, out of which 24 were from Africa, which is the first time and the biggest delegation of African players that ever been able to attend such an event. And I assure you, getting all those visas and everything into now a Schengen country, it was very difficult. But for us, it was a huge win, making them come there. The championship is our, let's say, prime event at the end of the year. It's not only about the competition and about the championship, but it's very important to understand that that's the event that all the national federations use in their countries to showcase why are they competing and what it means to be on the top of the world. What we are trying to do briefly is to build bridges, not barriers, like bringing countries that usually don't collaborate, countries that on political level have struggles. When it comes down to esports, we see them compete, we see them do fair play, and we see them supporting and competing against each other. And that is very important. So this is the map of the world, and this is how it looks now with our membership. We have 24 in the Americas, 47 in Europe, 35 in Africa now, and 42 in Asia, and only 3 from Oceania, because there it's complex for the small islands to actually develop a proper ecosystem. As you can see, Europe is the largest in numbers, and Africa and Asia are following there. On the other hand, it's very important to understand that in Asia, you can see now that esports is recognized in 69 countries in the world. We use the term nations from a political perspective because, as you know, there are some regions in the world that are under different countries, that cannot be used properly in the term. That's why, in order to make sure that we are inclusive for all the nations in the world and all the structures and all the communities, we have adjusted the way we communicate. So 69 nations are recognized either by their National Olympic Committee or by the Ministry of Sport. Why there is a difference? Because in some countries of the world, the Ministry of Sport is the entity that gives actual recognition to sports. Where the Olympic Committee has actually recognized the federation, it doesn't mean it's sport within the government system. So that's why whenever we are talking to our members and whenever they invite us to help them with their government support or the Olympic Committee, we always make a distinction. And of course, we first check the legislation and the rules of the country in order to facilitate their recognition and help them gain it. This number that you're seeing now in 2019 was 28. So there has been in the past 5 years huge growth, and this number will easily be much higher once ISF gets the proper recognition from the International Olympic Committee, hopefully in the years to come. And of course, if the European Federation gets support from the European Olympic Committee within the next year or two, this number will go up very quickly, because as you can see, a lot of federations in Europe are ready. They are compatible, they fulfill all the requirements, but in their statutes, it says, in their law, it says that esports must be recognized by an international governing body for sports, which is either AIMS or IOC. So we are working on it. I will also go back to it on the next slide. As you can see, this is the roadmap of the key moments of ISF from 2008, when it was created in Korea. Our headquarters are in Korea, in Busan. Since 2013, ISF is the official signatory of WADA, meaning that since then we have been doing regular testing, and we have done a lot of rules and a lot of engagement with WADA to actually bring esports on their list of sports, which we managed three months ago. It took a lot because there are a lot of rules and regulations that we must fulfill, but we've managed it. Since 2016, we recognized the need for us to speak out publicly on the topics and on the challenges that are facing us. So we have started doing the World Esports Summit, and we have been doing it since every time it's been happening in Busan, in Korea, where our headquarters are. In 2018 is the first time that the International Olympic Committee created an esports liaison group, of which, of course, ISF was part of, to initiate all the discussions within IOC to see how esports can be actually utilized and brought into the competition of under the Olympics. As you can see, there are some recent movements now. So it's been a while since we have been doing that. We have signed a memorandum with the International School Sports Federation. Then in 21, we started spreading education. So this is the North America Scholastic Esports Federation, which is actually creating a lot of a big curriculum of more than 5,000 pages and more than 400 different topics for education, which we give free to all members of ISF, so they can get all the basic skills that are required in order to run a federation, organize a competition, and of course, fulfill the requirements and administrative needs. In 2022, we received a letter from GIVES that we have applied in 2021. And in 2022, we received a letter from GIVES membership committee that ISF fulfills all the criteria to become a member and be voted by the membership commission of GIVES. Unfortunately, as I'm sure most of you know, IOC has decided to dismantle GIVES that year. So there is no more GIVES for us to join. Since then, we have adjusted our approach and, of course, start searching for alternative routes to official recognition. In 2023, we were accepted as full members of IMSA, which is the International Mind Sports Association, because there are certain regions of the world that treat esports as a mind sport. So in order to stay exclusive and stay out of it, we decided to join and actually be able to be the voice of esports and make sure that the people understand the difference between esports and chess and mahjong and all the other competitions that they are having. So this year, as I mentioned already, we are planning to apply to AIMS. We are already in discussion. We have received the requirements for our application. And what I can say with 100% certainty is that we fulfill all the requirements by AIMS to become members. And we are, of course, the only international federation and the only body in the world that actually fulfills those requirements, which include general assemblies, democratic voting processes, being a WADA signatory, inclusivity in esports, having separate competitions for women, proper grassroots level competitions. So all the requirements that are there by any international sport governing body, ISF is the only federation that fulfills it. Few years already in the back, and this is what we are doing, and we are hoping that we will do. What's interesting also that we have the first case, which with a guilty verdict, let's say, from WADA, considering anti-doping in esports. I cannot go into details, but this is something that I believe, according to the lawyers, in the next 2 weeks will go public. So it means that the system actually works and the testing actually works, and that we are fully implementing all the requirements like any other sports in the world. The esport market is quite big. As you can see, the numbers here, they're huge. So and it's very different to just be able to understand that the gaming market and the esport market are not the same. So gaming market is more about game development. It's more about sales of the games, about publishers' income, and different type of revenue. When we talk about esports, this is purely the competition, the tournaments, and everything that is organized under that umbrella. As you can see, also in the past 5 years, there has been a 50% increase in the audience. So it's becoming more and more popular for people to watch. And with what we are doing, with competing on national teams, we are actually engaging a different audience that was never interested in esports before, like football fans for a country, let's say for countries like England, like Brazil, like Argentina. Just imagine their passion being transferred into esports, and what will this mean for all of us, and especially for the athletes that are competing there. Within ISF, we have four critical committees, which are, of course, required by IOC, AIMS, previously in GAIFS, and of course that we felt the need to have it. One of them is the regulatory committee to make sure that our statutes are in line with every law that there is out there. We have an audit, risk, and governance committee in order to enforce transparency from ISF to all the stakeholders in esports. We have a membership committee, which is elected by the General Assembly mainly, in order to make sure that our members also fulfill the criteria. And we have athletes committee, a committee that has been the most active one, that is actually protecting the rights of the athletes. And here I would just like to say our former president, Mr. Vlad Marinescu, had a really interesting quote that there is no single reason why an esport athlete shouldn't have the same rights and respect as any other athlete is any other sport. And this is the main driver for us within ISF in order to grow ISF and make sure we get the official recognition so actually the athletes can have the benefits. Like in Asia, if you know, on the Asian Championship, on the Asian Games, the athletes that won gold medal, when they got back home, they got the same benefits as the athlete that won gold medal in ping pong or in badminton. So this is a huge win for esports, and we hope to see that working everywhere in the world. The education part is very critical. It doesn't have any immediate effect, as we all know. Education is quite slow moving, but from our side, what we are actually trying to achieve here is actually make sure everybody is aware, people that actually want to work in esports, or at least people that want to know more about esports. So we have different types of academia, different type of schools, different type of education projects, and we cater to everybody's need just to make sure that they are fully aware about esports, because as any other business, as any other aspect in the life, it has good side and it has bad sides, and it's better to be educated and prepared for what's happening there. Referees, of course, the key thing regarding integrity. We have started the referee program 7 years ago. So until now, we have more than 300 referees that are officially certified, and we have only 12 that are fully certified to be referees on the world program. Last year, the 30 referees that were on our test, 6 of them are now being used by ISF, and they will pass their final test on this year's World Championship. So we have a system where we educate them, we train them, and then we test them, and then we give them licenses to be referees. I'm sure most of you know how that works also in other sports. It's very similar in esports, with the only difference that the rules change much faster than in football or in basketball or volleyball or any other sport. The championship, as I said, here it says 146 nations, because this was done before we accepted the last 5 a month ago. So all the players are actually competing. How does the World Championship work? It's divided in 3 segments. One is nationals. This is very similar to any other sport. So they do a national qualifier, they select their best team in their country, and then they go to the regionals, like European Championship, which we are going to have in Kosovo this year, from 9th to 13th of July. If anybody wants to participate, please reach out. We will make sure that you get an invite to go there. So the best from the continent then are going to the World Championship, where they represent their countries. This is a system that ensures that the best of the best go to the World Championship and that the value is there. What we have done to ensure that every continent, when we do the slot division between the continents, we ensure that there are representatives from every part of the world and every sub-region. Like in Asia, we know there are 7 regions. In Africa, there are 3. In South America, there are 3. So we make sure that there is a representative from every region, in order when they go, they will have more viewership. And when they come back home, they will be the heroes to spread the news and how it's actually should be done. Our World Championship is unique in many ways, because it gives opportunity to the professional athletes to compete and represent their country, something that they don't have in any other competition in the world. It's quite interesting to see almost 600 athletes from more than 100 countries in one place. all talking to each other and changing and supporting each other. And of course, at the end, we select one champion, which the country that won most medals. It's quite an interesting event. Hope you will be able to follow it. And of course, we can share on our YouTube channel. There are videos from all our competitions. You can see the passion, you can see the tears, the happiness, the anger, all the emotions that the athletes feel while they are competing. The broadcast levels, I know at the end of the day, this is something that is an important metric, but we have grown quite a lot since we started. And now we have more than 80 million people actually watching the events that we are doing. And hopefully this year, that number will go over 100 million, because we do have a lot of professional athletes coming and competing and wanting actually to represent their country and show to the world that they're not only good in the team, but that they're actually good athletes and good human beings. The digital impact, of course, it's a slow growing aspect of what we are doing, but we are there. We are present on all the platforms. Esport athletes and gamers are a difficult bunch, but we are managing, and we are slowly growing and sending the right message that everybody needs to game very responsibly. And this is something that we are trying to do to make sure that the kids stay out of trouble, stay out of betting, stay out of doping, and of course, make sure that they have proper, beside mental, also physical education and physical exercise. So thank you very much, everybody, for your presentation, for your time here. Hope you like the presentation. And if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Boban, and wow, congratulations on all the work you have done. We all see that there is a tremendous effort there, and good luck on the way forward. And now the floor is open for questions to Boban or to Karol. So please, whoever has questions, I know that Karol can update his database now because he has some new members recognized in different countries. Jim, yeah, thank you, and yeah, go ahead.
Do you hear me? Oh, perfectly. My question is for Boban. I've noticed that the numbers which are going up rapidly in the esports and the gaming is very fast. But there's also a moment in 2021 when the corona outbreak was there. Do you have some numbers before the corona outbreak and how that benefited the digital world in the growth? And I would love to see the difference between before corona and after corona.
Okay. So basically, yes, there is a huge difference between COVID and after COVID from two reasons. Everything stopped, but esports didn't stop. So that was, let's say, a very important part of the development of esports and how we actually managed to restructure ISF, reshape everything. And actually, when people were looking for content, looking for engagement, looking for something, they actually turned towards esports. So this helped us a lot. And also, it's very critical to understand that in 2019, ISF was fully had an election, and there was a completely new president and a completely new board. It's the year when I was also elected in ISF, and the strategy of the federation turned more internationally. And what COVID gave us, actually, it gave us a year when it was status quo, when we can actually implement new statutes, new regulation for membership, learn a lot from other sporting federation, getting their knowledge and experience on how to grow esports as a sport. Because I'm a gamer, we are like most of the people in ISF, we are gamers, we love the game and everything. And to become a sport, there needs to be rules. Just for an example, I've had applied in my country, in Macedonia, for recognition for 12 years. And until we won a gold medal, we never had a chance even to get a seat on the table. But in 2021, actually, in Israel, we won the first gold medal in Counter-Strike. And when we came back, people waiting us at the airport and government saying, oh, wait, this is a sport. We won gold. And 6 months later, we got recognition. So it takes time, but learning from you guys, from everybody from sports, from Olympic world, is very helpful for us because we want to implement that and make sure that we do follow some procedures and requirements.
Thank you for the answer. up, of course, a lot. But the numbers itself, do you have them in the archive somewhere like 2019, 2020, so you can add them up in the statistics? Because I think that also here in the Netherlands, we could show them that what it changed and what it could drive towards to in the digital world, to have also non-pandemic partnerships, activities
Yes.
inside the sports,
Yes.
the esports.
We have the numbers ISF related, we have the esport numbers, we have the viewership numbers. So we have all the numbers from before then. Here we just put last 3 years because it's what is the recent memory. But of course, we have all the numbers from 2008 onwards. So it's not a problem. After this, I will share through Petra all the information and she can share with the network.
Thank you very much, Boban.
Thank you, Boban. We have a next question from Paulo Ferreira, and the question is if the ISF is involved in the Esports Olympics in Saudi Arabia.
Thank you for the question. ISF currently is not directly involved in the Olympic Esport Games, Saudi Arabia. Of course, we have discussions. We had a discussion with WADA, considering that any Olympic competition is going through and following WADA protocol, and us, ISF, as the only signature, needs to be included in some way. But considering that we all know that the event is still in the shaping phase of how it will look, so besides the division on simulations, VR, and esport titles, there are not much information still available. We're looking forward to getting more information in the following month, and of course, we remain available to be included, and I believe that we will be included.
Thank you. Nina, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, everyone. Very interesting presentation so far. And also thank you for bringing up the question related to esport in Saudi Arabia. I think that is in everyone's lips and mind right now. I have a question related to equality, because since the esport different like disciplines offer kind of like the opportunity for people with different backgrounds, with different genders, perhaps compete against each other. So how is that considered between like female, male, and also then allowing like transgender athletes to participate in the same events? And that could go to all the speakers, to the European level federation and international. That's my first question. And then the second one relates to the current sanctions against Russia. So what is your stand on the neutrality criteria, and are you somehow involved with the similar strategic plan than the IOC and quite many of the international federations, that the Russians or athletes with the Russian passport are only allowed to compete with under like a neutrality criteria? So are you following up with that? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. First, about equality. The best thing about esports, and this is not only true for gender equality, but also for Paralympics, is esports is the only sport where actually it doesn't matter who you are behind the screen and you can compete. So in my vision, the esports can have only one category where everybody competes together. However, esports has some endemic challenges like sexual harassment and other very negative factors that, given to the fact that it was a grassroots driven project developed primarily commercially, there is a lot of unhealthy behavior going on. And to produce that, or to sort of mitigate those risks, we are creating women-only categories to sort of spearhead the development and to help women in gaming. For example, a lot of women gamers that I know are even sometimes afraid to unmute their microphone and speak their voice in online lobbies because they're afraid of some potential negative impact that this might entail. So we are highly committed to increasing the role of female participation. That's why I think female participation is very important, and women deserve a separate category just to sort of catch up the trend and right the wrongs of the past. But I believe that truly developed and inclusive esports ecosystem, which is something that we are striving together to achieve, should have one unified category where male and female athletes can compete together. So that's for the equality part. And for the Russian part, Russian Esports Federation was banned following the invasion of Ukraine on the General Assembly in Stockholm in 2022. So since then, they are not able to participate in any European federations under Russian or neutral flag for that sake. And we have not received any requests from Russia to be readmitted to the club. So that is currently our Russian position and our Russian stance. There were some facts underlying this, especially the fact that, for example, Russian Esports Federation allegedly opened offices on the occupied territories of Ukraine and stuff like this, which of course violates the charters of respecting each esport federation's activities and jurisdiction. So that's the current state of affairs in Europe. Boban, if you can, or if you really can take on more comments on this.
Well, coming from doing the entire world, first regarding the inclusivity, I must say that throughout the past 5-6 years, we have identified different challenges. One of them is that actually the female athletes, they want to compete in their own circuit. They don't want to be mixed. And that's why we've tried first in Bali in 2022, we did a test at the first female Counter-Strike championship. It was a success. Then we added Mobile Legends, and now we have, I think, 28 female teams, only female teams that can compete, which is a huge thing for them, considering that all the pro circuits for female athletes, because of the low viewership, like you all know the NBA story, they are being canceled one by one. So females don't have where to compete. And when ISF announces a championship or something, they're looking forward to it. They're prepping, they're working, and they're planning, and they're exercising a lot for that. So we kept that. The most important thing is that the other one is not male only. The other one, we call it open championship. So that's the segment where anybody can qualify, regardless of gender. We know that there are parts of the world where people have 5, 6, 7 genders, 3 or 4 genders. So our opinion and our perspective may vary, but we have an opportunity for everybody to compete. But considering that women athletes, they want to compete in their own circuit, we have created, as you said, as Karol mentioned, a safe space for them where they can compete against each other. We're always trying, even in the hotels, to put them in a separate safe location so they don't feel threatened and they can easily come into the system. And actually, by you doing that, teaching everybody how to properly communicate. So from that part, I believe that where we were 6 years ago and where we are now is a huge progress. Of course, we need to grow more, and we will with listening the community and what they are asking us. And this is the critical role of national federations and, of course, continental bodies, because you know that this topic in Africa is not a topic. You know that this topic in South America is not a topic, but in Asia, in Southeast Asia, and of course in Europe and in Northern America and Canada is a topic that we are opening every year, and they're sending us suggestions, and we are adjusting and adapting our competition rules just to be able to facilitate more and more and tender to more different groups in the world. Regarding the question for Russia currently, the Russian Esports Federation is considered as not in good standing within ISF because of the breach that Karol mentioned, opening offices in Ukraine, and by that breaching the statutes of ISF. Although in Romania, on the General Assembly with majority voted to not ban Russian athletes because of their nationality, which in essence, the true sports is saying that you shouldn't discriminate anybody just because they are born in a country. But in that spirit, the vote passed with, I think it was a close vote, but it still passed. But after that, the breach happened when they actually opened offices in Ukraine. So there was an investigation through the board, through the membership committee, through a lot of committees that we have internally. And then the decision was made to suspend the Russian Esports Federation until resolving the issues at hand, or until Ukraine and Russia reach internationally accepted peace. At the moment, we even, maybe some of you read the news lately, We even tried to have a world championship in Ukraine this year in order to show support and to make it like esports for peace and everything, but it was too fragile, so we have postponed it probably for the years in the future in order to be able to support Ukraine in their restoring their structures and their economy, and of course their kids, their youth.
Thank you very much, Nina. I believe this answered your questions. So now we have a question from Metin.
Yes, thank you so much. Hello, everybody. My name is Metin, and today I'm representing the Kosovo Olympic Committee here. It was a pleasure to hear both of you, and I have a question now, whichever one of you might answer, it's okay. We know that right now there are the qualifications for the Kosovo Championship being held, right? And I just have a question. At the same time, we have the tier one tournaments, the ESL in Dallas. So the best players in, let's say, in Counter-Strike are playing in Dallas and are not able to participate in the qualifications for the Nations Championship. So what is the IESF kind of doing in this regard in order to centralize the competitions? Because at the same time, we have the tier one tournaments being organized by Blast or by ESL or by Valve, and the European Championships and World Championships. And it's kind of, you know, it's not really for the fans, it's not fair to maybe not being able to see, let's say, Zaivu represent France in the European Championship. It's like saying Mbappe cannot represent France in an European Championship. If you can.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much.
Well, the only thing that we can do at the moment is called calendar syncing. So there is an international document that we all have it, which is which has the calendar of all major events that are happening in the world. And while selecting the dates for the Kosovo event, we were pretty much we didn't have a lot of flexibility considering availability of the arena where we're going to do it, and of course we had like 3 options, and we were focusing on the actual finals. So who participates in the qualifiers? It doesn't mean that those will be the actual athletes representing the country in Kosovo. So it's very different. The online qualifiers, yes, but the country can say, okay, like Macedonia, we have 2 tier 1 players in Counter-Strike, Kiksan and Tsatsan. They're both in Dallas. But we played with our other team and we qualified. But now for Kosovo, one of them is confirmed to come. We're waiting for the confirmation for the second one to come. So there have been situations, even in basketball, even in football, where in the qualifiers, the country doesn't bring their top athletes. Like I'm sure that Beckham or Ronaldo or someone were not able to play against Faroe Islands or someone and risk an injury or waste their time. So they're using Team B, but when the important things come, they're using Team A. So this is what we are doing. We are helping the federations like Germany, their best team, Big, who is also playing in Dallas, and we're giving them an extension until next week so they can register the best team to come actually in Kosovo and play against Bad News Eagles.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And now we have a question from Mika from Greenland Sports Federation, and it would be to Boban and Karol both. As a small country and developing esport organization, what would you recommend we focus on effectively support the growth of esports locally? And additionally, how can we encourage physical activity among our esports players and integrate health and wellness into it?
So what I would start with is school and university tournaments, because these are the very grassroots and you don't need the professional teams and professional ecosystems for this. These tournaments can get a huge popularity and a huge player count. For example, here in Slovakia, we have over 3,000 students playing our school esport championship every semester, which for the size of our country is pretty nice. So these are the really easy points to start. These tournaments, they don't require massive production and massive prize pools as an investment. And of course, then the university ecosystem, which is, I would say, a slightly more towards the pro level, where the students can compete and they already are more grown up and have more expertise and more skill, and the competitions are able to attract a bit more audience. As for the sports part, it's very important to do the education role models, but also maybe included in marketing and communication. For example, you can pick a brand like we did in Slovakia called Budiš that manufacture water and some other healthy drinks. And we used them and created a campaign together with them and with the physical trainer that was the face of the brand, showing that the gamers should train and they should also do some movement. And we even tracked if they had fit wristbands or fitness watches, the amount of physical activities they did, and awarded the gamers that did the most physical activities. So either through commercial integrations, bringing brands who are all about spreading physical awareness, or through education. If you already have school projects, teach those teachers or educate those teachers that they should incorporate physical routine into esports. Or for example, in universities, it's even better. We can actually, together with Slovak University of Technology, for example, we're opening an esports center where a physical gym is actually a part of the sports center where the gamers train before they play. So that's also incorporated into the habit. So those kids, when they start gaming, they have it in their heads right from the beginning that this is a very necessary part of esports. So that's from my part. Boban, if you'd like to follow up on that.
Yes, I would love to, because bringing ISF from 60 members to 150, I worked with a lot of countries, especially smaller. I come from a small country, so I know what it actually takes to properly grow and set up the structure of for esports in countries. Of course, depends on your infrastructure and the community. This is very important to understand, because now, for example, in the past 2 years, mobile gaming is becoming very popular. So it's taking huge numbers. There are, of course, side effects, especially the physical side effects of playing on a mobile and the eyes compared to PC gaming or console gaming. But first, you need to identify, is it console, is it PC, is it mobile? Is there a mix of all three? So you know which community to gather and in which way to gather. You need to see if there is maybe someone interesting. Maybe there is a federation for esports. I haven't heard of it yet. Maybe there is a group of people or clubs that are being self-organized, like what it is in most countries, where someone can actually unite them. We see a lot of Olympic committees in the world creating esport subcommittees, or an esports committee within the Olympic Committee, and they are giving them the authority to do national selections and send teams to represent their country. So this is also one of the options. Then, of course, you can give authority to some group of people to actually create the federation. This works in some systems, and it's very critical just to understand this actually goes to your second part of the question, the physical activity. This is what actually gives you the power to actually educate them properly. I mean, I know power sounds like enforcing it, but it actually gives you credibility, let's say it better, to actually tell them, guys, if you want to compete for the team, you have 8 hours practice today, 2 hours you play on the PC, 1 hour you have physical activity, then 1 hour you have food, then again 2 hours practicing, then again second type of physical activities. And there are systems and curriculums on actually how they can actually practice, because they also need to be physically fit in order to perform on the games. If you just take a look at the photos from gamers 20 years ago and from gamers today, you will see a huge difference. Because the social stigma, we all know that gamers are antisocial, that they're fat, that they're sitting at home, drinking Coca-Cola, eating snacks. That is not the case anymore. Gamers are now aware, thanks to all the competitions and all the education that a lot of people did, not just ISF, that you actually need to be fit and physically healthy to perform better in the game. I mean, sometimes they sit and play for 8 hours. Can you imagine sitting on a computer playing 8 hours? And you remember Karol said how many actions? 17 actions per second. Multiply that by 8 hours and see how many thought processes they have. And they cannot do that if they're not physically active. They will collapse, or they will lack sugar, something will happen. So through actually educating them and training them and preparing it to be a national team, this is how you actually teach them how to do it. And the best country in the world that do this, believe it or not, is Indonesia. They're doing boot camps every time when they have a competition. So they take the national team and the reserves and the replacements, the substitutes, and they take them 30 days somewhere in the mountains, in the hills, doesn't matter. They take them to a retreat or to a resort. And they do practice, they do mental, they do education, they do physical, they do swimming, basketball, running, games, strategies. So they're working on all of them. And I've seen this 4 years ago, and they're still doing it and they're still improving it. So those are the examples that we need to bring from Asia to this part of the world, and of course spread everywhere in the world. Of course, we need help. We can do so much alone. That's why it's important for us to reach out to as many of you, motivate as many of you, and we are here to help and support with the know-how.
Thank you very much. Now I know how I'm going to get fit. I don't see any questions, but in case you still have some questions, we'll share the contact details for both Boban and Karol, so you can reach out to them, and I'm sure they will be glad to answer you. And thank you again to both speakers, and also to you here, everyone, and also to the ENGSO Secretariat for helping us put together this session. And it is clear that esports provides a lot of opportunities and some challenges to engage into grassroots sports, and we are glad to be able to discuss this. We understand this is just a starting point, and we look forward to further cooperate with you and communicate on this topic. And we invite you for further discussions, either individually or through ENGSO, if you want to reach out to any of our colleagues today. And we're also looking forward to have a session designated for esports at the General Assembly of ENGSO in June. So we're looking forward to see you there. And I am sure this is not the last time we are seeing both Boban and Karol. So we're looking forward to see you in the future. And good luck for esports. Thank you, and have everyone a great day.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was a great pleasure. And once again, please feel free to reach out. We're all in this together. We want to develop esports and make sure that it's a proper sport, a proper definition, and that all of our countries in Europe are properly represented on the Olympic Esport Games and beyond.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye.